Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to Zentropy Aviation. Today's video is going to be part one. Whoa, buddy. The fun starts right away on Zentropy, so welcome. We have had a drunk tug operator. Bloody hell, what is up with this guy? Okay, excellent. I started off at JFK here, but my nose was embedded into the terminal. So before I started recording the video, I did a little bit of a pushback action to get the aircraft back this way. And upon the start, this is happening here. Okay, wild times. Let's press on. This is DC Designs Concorde, an aircraft that I don't think needs an introduction. It is an elegant bird, an iconic bird that unfortunately met its demise as a commercially operated airliner in 2003. For a variety of reasons, it was unsustainable commercially at that point. There was a tragic accident in Paris, so a multitude of factors contributed to it no longer being operated. And the legend remains, and this is the incarnation of it in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I was thinking about the best way to do this video because a Concorde is not an airliner that I can take on a short island hop between Puerto Rico and Vieques like I usually do for general aviation aircraft. This is a bird meant to cross the pond. So the most sensible way to do this is kind of the way that I did it with the PMDG Boeing 737 demonstration, where we are separating the flight into several phases, and each phase is going to be a separate video, which hopefully by the end of it will give you a pretty complete idea of what this is about and how to operate it and what to do with it. That being said, we are going to make sure that we are not missing any steps, and I'm going to be following a really thorough checklist that Dean Crawford and his team have incorporated into the Concorde. Dean, codename Jack, all of these guys have worked hard on this aircraft for a long time. So without further ado, let's hop inside. By the way, this comes with the few liveries, what you would expect: Air France, British Airways. There's also Singapore, but you know, I'm not a big liveries person, so who cares about that? Let's go inside and take a look at the flight deck, and not only the flight deck but the passenger cabin, which is also modeled here. So this is the overhead panel. All this stuff, there is plenty of stuff, right? So if you're looking for switches and buttons and gauges and all of that, this has it all. You will have your hands full doing all sorts of stuff here. That being said, okay, so there is a switch right here on the flight engineer panel called cabin door locked, and that is what opens this door. There's also a button here that says passenger viz on, so that enables those passengers. I see someone's legs sticking out into the aisle. I'm going to go ahead and trip over them, so let's get rid of them. And we can take a walk into the passenger cabin, see what things look like. Coffee, bubbles, the wobbler, you know it. Now, if you're going to rip off a label of a champagne producer, Dean, okay, rip off a better champagne. This looks like some cheap California quote-unquote champagne. Aha. Restrooms. Look at that. Somebody on the forums discovered an Easter egg. I think we have thousands of hours of work, countless animations, flight modeling, texture art, blood, sweat, and tears. And you want to know if you can shut yourself in the toilet. Friend, we salute you. Well, I don't salute you, DC Designs, because modeling is spelled with one L. So, way to drop the ball there. I'm just giving you a hard time. Let's continue walking through this thing. This is the passenger cabin. Uh-oh. Altitude by Dean Crawford. Always an opportunity for shameless self-promotion, Dean. I see right through you. This is what it felt like to be a passenger on the Concorde. But they did have some nice reading material right over there. So, cool. Great. Without further ado, we're not here to fly as passengers on this thing. We are here to fly this thing and flip switches and look at gauges and blah. This is one of those things that is unlike the newer Boeings and Airbus birds. Can be fairly intimidating. There's no magenta line for you to fly, which is great. But it also has a lot of gauges and there's a lot of stuff to pay attention to. So, in order to not miss things, let's go ahead and utilize the built-in checklist and see what's happening. Okay, landing gear is down. That's great. And the parking brake right here is on. Lovely. Flight control blue inverter is right here on the overhead panel. That is in the on position right now. And the green inverter is right next to it here. That is also in the on position. Anti-stall systems are in the on position, both of them, right? QNH altimeters are right down here. So this is fine and dandy. I'm gonna go ahead and hit B because I'm gonna hit B. But you know what would be really helpful? This is to all the aircraft designers. I know that some aircraft, when you hover over the tooltip for the barometric pressure, it gives you the current reading. I love that. Sometimes on gauges, it's kind of hard to read the numbers, so it's very, very useful to know what the current setting is. But these are just random thoughts that occur in my head as I'm looking at the aircraft. The nav radios are set. I mean, they're right here. I am not really going to worry about that for now. We'll get to it later. Transponder is right over here. Okay, I can set it to standby. This is great. ground hydraulics yellow, yellow off. So this is going to be on the flight engineers panel right over here. Yellow, yellow, and off position is fine. Fuel heaters are on auto. They are currently on the on position. So we're going to go ahead and flip them down to the auto position. By the way, in this aircraft, it seems that the readings of the tooltips are going to tell you the next position of it if you click on it, not what they currently are set at. There's an inconsistency between various aircraft, and for somebody like me that has basically all of them, some of them are showing what the position is currently, some of them are showing what it's going to do if you click on it. Well, this is one of those that is going to show you what it's going to do if you click on it. So that's that. Engine recirculation is shut, and so they are all shut. Secondary air doors are on auto, and currently they are on open, so I'm going to go ahead and put all 4 of these on auto. FMC and INS set. Well, there is really nothing to set yet because none of these things are on. So I don't really know. So this is kind of honest feedback, right? I don't really know if it makes sense to worry about transponders and FMC and all of this other fun stuff when we have 0 power to the aircraft yet. Nothing has been activated. Nothing is on. So, dialing in nav stations on here is really not going to do much for us at this point. So I don't know, maybe in the next release, maybe these things need to be moved to a different part of the checklist, but I digress. It's not really, all that important. Just a minor thing to pick on, I guess, right? So seatbelt is on, which we're going to go ahead and do, but again, this is one of those things that there's a sound associated with this, right? And you don't hear that sound when you flip that switch on when there's no power to the aircraft. So there is that. Then we have the fuel and weight balance check. I mean, okay. We have so I wonder, here's a quick heads up. What I didn't do is I didn't look at the brand new manual in details yet. I just kind of skimmed over it, and I'm wondering if manually adjusting this fuel load here is going to not load the aircraft properly. What I do know is that before I started this flight, on the selection screen, I did have the fuel pretty much here, because once you move it to 96%, you are now over your takeoff weight, right? Let's go ahead and actually that's a lot of so this is basically a fully payload 33. This is almost a fully loaded aircraft, right? I don't know if flying a fully loaded aircraft on your first flight should be a thing, because you're probably going to struggle with things a little bit here and there. So I know that economically that's probably not feasible, but I'm going to go ahead and actually adjust these a little bit. I'm going to do half of everything. Okay, let's set these things to about half, so that we're not stressing ourselves out here. Okay. Business, crew, payload 19 out of 34. You know what? I'm fine with this. I'm not 220 pounds though. Go away with that. I do work out. Anyhow, the weights have been set, and okay, this looks great. Let's go ahead and increase our fuel to 100% just because. Again, without reading the manual, I don't know. I think some of these transfer tanks should not be full. That's my hunch, but that's okay. Right now, let's roll with this, okay? So weight and all of that stuff has been checked. What is this? This is okay. Is this because my power's off, or is it because my fuel configuration is all messed up? It's okay. We'll figure this out. Okay, so beacon lights. This is all on the overhead panel here. The beacon light is on. Weirdly enough, the down arrow here and the up arrow functionality are reversed. Don't know why, because that's not consistent with what's happening on the flight engineer panel. But again, minor things. They don't really affect all that much, but I can't help myself. I have that OCD thing going on with me. So throttles are at idle. One thing, if we're turning on the beacon light, probably the nav light is going to be a good idea to turn on too at the same time, so that we kill both birds with one stone. That's such a weird expression. I don't like to talk about killing birds, but so engine start. All right, this is where the fun begins, right? Okay. Cool stuff, right? Let's move over here. First thing that needs to happen is ground power needs to be established, which is here. So we're going to go ahead and turn on external power. Boom. This stuff comes on. So ground power is on. ESP switch, which is battery, essentially. Okay? You have two of them. They're going to be right here. Battery 1. And we're alive. Battery 2. Okay. EPU switch. That is the emergency generator, which we are going to turn on, and this remains for engine start. And all of these fun things came alive too. So we're going to leave the cover open because we're going to extinguish this in a bit. Okay. Engine bleed valves. They're going to be up there. Bleed air right up here. So there's 4 of them, 1 for each engine. We're going to go ahead and turn them all on. Yes? LP bleed valves. Okay. I forgot what this is referring to. LP. And what are we pointing to? Down, over here. Aha, yes. Okay, cool. You see this low pressure valve? Yes, low pressure is what LP stands for. So we're going to need to open all 4 of these valves. Otherwise, you're not going to have any fuel flow, right? And then the other thing that happens is the crossfeed valves are set to open, which means a horizontal position for all 4 of them. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Yes? All right. So now we're going to start engine number 3. We're going to need to monitor our temperatures and N2 and N1 right over here. Exhaust gas temperatures right here. And we have N1 and N2. My fuel indicators have now been enabled and are no longer illuminated in red. Whatever that was because of a lack of power. Can you go away? I don't know how to disable you, but you really annoy me right now. I don't want to see you. Get... Okay. Alright. This is the engine starters. Engine number 3. Let's go ahead and see what happens. N2 is alive. EGT is coming up. These are all great signs. I love it. I can hear you. All right. Engine 3 is alive. Lovely. Okay. Engine 2 is next, right? So let's watch N2. N2 is coming alive for engine number 2. EGT. And 1. Let's take a look at the outside. I can see the hot airstream by the tail. Beautiful. Excellent. We are going to talk to ATC and get our clearance.
Kennedy clearance delivery Smirnoff 666 IFR to Heathrow ready to copy.
Smirnoff 666 is cleared to Heathrow Airport as filed. Take off runway 31 left climb and maintain 8,000 feet. Departure frequency is 125.25/0.541.
Smirnoff 666
8,000
feet.
feet.
Airport as filed.
I'm gonna go
Take
ahead
off
and
runway
stick
31
this
left
number
climb and maintain 8,000 feet.
on the
Departure
autopilot.
on 125.25/0.541.
Smirnoff 666 read back correct. Contact ground on 125.05. Good day.
Let's contact the ground. Taxi.
Kennedy ground Smirnoff 666 with Sierra ready to taxi IFR.
Smirnoff 666 taxi to and hold short of runway 31 left via taxiway hotel, cross runway 4 left hotel Yankee Juliet Zulu. Contact tower on 119.1 when ready.
Taxiing hold short runway 31 left via taxiway hotel, cross runway 4 left hotel Yankee Juliet Zulu Smirnoff 666.
Okay. Exciting. So now we're ready for pushback. Okay. This here is telling us to turn off the EPU switch. Now, natural questions that arise. I hate the fact that this is one of those situations when my frame rate is really low. I'm normally running at about 40 frames per second, which is what it's limited to. But when I'm using the capture software and I'm also in JFK, which is FPS heavy anyway. Right now I'm running like 12 frames per second. That's okay. That should be remedied soon, as soon as I leave ground at JFK. So this thing is calling for EPU switch to be off. Okay. Now I can do that. EPU is off. But the ground power, I would imagine before we taxi and do pushback, which says the next step is pushback, I would imagine that we disengage ground power. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. If that means consequences, so be it. Because I do have 2 engines running. So I should technically be okay. But I think there needs to be a turn the ground power off point here in the checklist. I digress. Alright. Yes, I use assistance in the taxi arrows. Sue me. I don't know JFK Airport. I'm not going to look at the bloody map of the airport right now, so you're just going to have to deal with it. And I am getting this drunk tug towards the aircraft so that it can start pushing me back. At least it's not flipping out anymore. Okay, I'm going to disengage the parking brake. And my aircraft, as you see, started moving ever so slightly, so let's engage the parking brake until this thing hooks on. Beautiful. Let's go. So that's where we're going, is over there. Which isn't very far, unless it's just not drawing. Yeah, it's further. Alright, this should give me plenty of room to turn around while I am taxiing. So let's go ahead and push back here. Engage the parking brake. Okay, pushback is complete. Lovely. Let's continue with this exciting process of getting the aircraft power on. So we are about to start engine number 1, but before we do that, I believe, I might be wrong, but I believe the requirement is that the EPU needs to be on. If I have any hope of starting engine number 1. It doesn't say so on the checklist, but I think that's the way things work. So let's see if this happens. N2 is alive. UGT is coming up. And 1 is moving. Exceptional. Okay. Last but not least, let's do engine number 4. And 2 growing. EGT is alive. And N1 is now moving as well. This is all the fun you are missing out on if you are starting the aircraft with Control E or on the runway. I really wanted to do this right. So this way it's not only a review and kind of a showcase for what this aircraft is and what it does and what it looks like, but it's also kind of a bit of a tutorial on how to get this going. Right? So now that our engines are alive, I'm going to make an assumption that this is the time we turn off EPU. And now we can close the guard. Goodbye, EPU. Alright. Next step on our checklist is flight controls. Okay, full and free. AFCS and trims. Set. Stab and feel switches. Okay, these are right over here. They are all in the off position now. So I am going to go ahead and turn all of them off. On. Asobo, your tooltips ever since SU5 are annoying. They were smaller before and they weren't getting in the way of literally everything you're trying to click on. This makes all these procedures more excruciating than they need to be. Okay. So that's that. Engine anti-ice as required. I really wish I had active sky to look up right now so I could check my departure temperature, but I don't have that available. And I am not familiar enough with the aircraft to know where it might actually tell me the OAT. I remember seeing something, but that might be fuel. This is what? What is this 14.9 Celsius? Is that my outside temperature? Is it? Is it? What is it a temperature of? Temp. Okay. No, this is fuel. So oil. Okay. This is fine. I think this is our outside temperature. We don't really have a lot of moisture up there because I don't see a lot in the way of clouds. So I'm going to make an assumption that we're going to be okay without engine anti-ice for now. So I'm going to leave them off and hydraulics and electric something is cut off here within limits I'm gonna assume that's great. Next checklist. Taxi. We're going to... Okay, we have obtained the taxi clearance. This is great. Parking brake off. That's gonna happen. Max turn speed 10 knots. We'll keep that in mind. Visor nose down 5 degrees. That is this switch here. And we're going to utilize it now. So the first step in the visor down, this is, by the way, operated with the flap switch on your joystick, which is cool because there are no flaps on Concorde. So the next position is going to be that 5 degrees down, and here we go. We have it coming down. Looks wicked cool, right? Starting to lower its nose. Oh, and we have a drunk, you know, what's his face over there? The tug driver is partying it up again. So, all right, nose down, 5 degrees, right? CG movement as required. All right. Our CG over here is, this is where it needs to be. This is where it is now. So we need to make sure things are happening. Okay. There is a you see this over here. This is our CG control. So you have a duplicate of this instrument here. You know what I'm seeing is that the static air temperature is 4 degrees. So I am actually going to go ahead and turn on the engine anti-ice. Right. So. There we go. What else do we have? Engine rating mode is climb. And it's on climb for all 4 engines. Air intakes. All set. So this is not very clear, I don't feel, about what all set really means. and I'm not particularly sure what it is that I'm looking for here. But I'm just going to roll with this and see what happens. Engine control. We are on normal, which is what we want to be. The N1 limiter, 88%. Engine 4 takeoff. I don't really know what it is that it's expecting us to do, so I'm just gonna leave this as is. This is not very clear. Fuel consumption indicator, I would imagine that would be here. No? Where is it? It's not showing us where that is. Engine feed pumps all should be on, which they are. Great. Anti-skid as expected. This isn't really showing us where that is, but anti-skid is over here. So I assume this is fine. I don't really see. Okay, trim tanks checked. D-air pumps on. Those are where? Up here. D-air pumps. Okay, we're gonna do auto. Oh, that's not what we want. This auto. Okay, I'm going to assume that this did whatever that needs to do. CG position as expected. Not yet. I feel like this needs a little bit more fleshing out in documentation. Autopilot set all as required. Well, we're not activating autopilot quite yet. We are going to go ahead and begin taxiing. And what this checklist did not mention is that there are taxi lights and runway turn lights that need to be enabled. So that is what we just did, and we are ready to go ahead and begin taxiing procedure. Turning radius of this thing is not too crazy. It takes a little bit for it to turn around. It's not a small plane, so but we can go ahead and begin. So, DC Designs crew, if you are watching this, there is, I feel, a section in the manual, in the tutorial flight part, that kind of briefly brushes over the startup and taxi procedures, but it sort of omits the proper procedure to getting the CG within the expected range prior to takeoff. What is the procedure to get the CG into the accepted range prior to takeoff? I guess that would be my biggest question. Down a little bit. So I'm sure you guys will agree that there is a wealth of learning to be done on this, and this is just basics of Concorde. There's still a lot to understand. There's still a lot of reading to be done before one can operate this thing with any understanding of what actually is happening. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at our departure runway. I am going to bid you farewell until part 2 of the video, which I will see you here for shortly, I hope. Please subscribe to the channel if you like this kind of content and want to help this channel grow, see more in reviews, previews, and tutorials for the flight simulators. Cheers, and thank you for watching once again.